All right, Dave. Welcome
Yeah.
to the Average Joe podcast. This is episode 21, which is
Wow.
a big deal. I've been saying on it that I want to get to 21 episodes because we read somewhere that if you make 21, it puts you in the top 1% of podcasts.
Hmm.
So this is a special
All
episode.
right. That's good. You made it.
Yeah, I'm honored to have you as a guest. So where I mean, there's so many places we could start, but let's start way back. What was it? Were you born in California?
I was.
Okay, I love hearing people's life stories. So let's start there. What was it like for you growing up, childhood, all of that, and then we can go from there.
Um,
Turn off.
okay. Well, I was born in San Francisco. This is great because I'm kind of at a spot in my life where reflecting back is
Yeah.
cool. It's good. It's kind of exciting and it's sort of helpful to think back. Born in San Francisco as a baby boomer, and my dad was. I'm a surgeon. My dad was also a surgeon, and my dad was in medical school in San Francisco.
Was he also a trauma surgeon?
He was a general surgeon.
Gotcha.
Did didn't do very many emergency surgeries, but did lots of elective cases. Um, and so he was in training, and he got out of medical school, and then we moved around quite a bit because back then, if you were in medical school, you when you got out, they said, "Okay, great, we've got a new doctor,"
Mm.
and so they would just take you in the service. And so he was in the Air Force for 4 years,
Oh wow.
and
Yeah.
so he did an internship, and we lived in Yuba City, California, and then he got sent to the South, to South Carolina. So we lived in South Carolina for a little
I
while
never
when I
knew
was a
that.
little kid.
That's
Yeah,
quite different from California.
yeah.
That's
And then we moved
opposite
back.
coast.
What's that?
It's the opposite coast.
Opposite coast. We were teeny. He had three kids by then because my brother had been born. My younger brother had been born, and so there were three kids and my mom took care of us, and my dad went off, and he was what was called a flight surgeon, where he did fly some in planes. He wasn't ever the pilot, but he took care of the pilots and co-pilots and the guys who took care of the aircraft.
Oh, that's cool.
And so he finished his 4 years in the Air Force and then did a residency in Bakersfield. So we lived there for 4 years in California. And then he found a practice. He joined a guy in a practice in Davis. So we moved to Davis when I was about 10.
And that's where you spent
And
high school, right?
that's where I went
That's
through high school. Yeah. So spent high school in Davis, and finished, and then went off to UC's. And I had taken a couple of advanced placement tests, which back in those days, this was the early 70s, back in those days, you got a lot of credit for a successfully passed advanced placement test. So I went in kind of 2/3 of the way through my freshman year in terms
Oh
of
wow,
units,
yeah.
in terms
Yeah.
of unit credit.
People do that today too. I think there's ways you can do community college classes and other stuff in high school. But that's nice. So you're
Yeah.
ahead going in.
So I had credits.
Did you know you wanted to be in the medical field at this point?
Kinda. It was sort of my dad was a physician and my uncle was a physician, and their dad was a physician, and
So the
then
path was always
yeah,
in your head. Like,
it's generational.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I kind of thought of it always as the not necessarily the default, but as the backup. Like if I didn't find anything else, well, then I might as well just go into medicine because everybody else did. So it was that kind of reasoning. I
It's a
wasn't.
pretty good backup plan.
Yeah, it
There's
was
there's
right.
worse.
I mean, it was good job security,
Yeah.
and
Well
it
respected.
turned out great. I wasn't gearing towards it though. It wasn't the kind of thing where I was saying, well, gosh, I got to be a physician
Mhm.
because everybody else is, or medicine is the only thing that I might want to do. So, um, ended up going to a bunch of different UCs because I had all those credits. And when I first started at UC San Diego, I had to take lots of credit. So, like, by the time I had finished my first 2 years at college, I was almost at a point where I could graduate. So, in terms of units,
Undergraduate.
yeah,
Yeah.
undergraduate.
What
So
was your undergraduate?
it was I was an undeclared major until I got a phone call in my fourth year from somebody. By that time, I ended up at UC Davis. That was after dropping out for a little while. So I ended up at UC Davis, and I got a phone call from one of the administrators saying, "You're we've noticed you have 140% of the units necessary to graduate, and you're still an undeclared major.
Like you got to pick
You
something.
got to pick." Well, they said not only do you have to pick something, we've picked it for you
Oh,
because you have to leave because we need your spot for somebody else. So
yeah, yeah.
I was taking up a spot, and that totally made sense to me. So they said you're going to be a chemistry major, but the quickest way to get you out of here is a Bachelor of Arts in chemistry, not a Bachelor of Science. So I have a Bachelor of Arts
In chemistry.
in chemistry from UC Davis. Yeah.
And you didn't even pick it.
No, and it wasn't my major. And in the meantime, I was applying to med school, and med school back then, honestly, was if you were a good student, it was pretty easy to get into med school.
So it's a lot. You would say it's a lot harder now.
I think it's harder now. Well, I've got a son going through the process now, and I think what's changed is that the quality of the applicants now is so much better. Like back then, I had a 4.0 grade point, and I did really well on the MCATs. And I was a chemistry major. Nobody.
And
looks
now
at the
that's like
BA,
not
hopefully.
even enough.
And now you'd have to do community service or lots of volunteer hours in a hospital. Do something else that showed that you weren't just a smart kid. So, but back then I got in and I went to UC Davis and finished there after 4 years. And
What was that like? The
Uh,
4 years in
it
med school.
was well, Davis back then was 2 years on the main campus and then 2 years in Sacramento working in the hospital. And the 2 years on the main campus were kind of like doing undergraduate, just harder.
Yeah.
And the 2 years on the Sacramento campus were kind of like being an intern, but actually harder because I still had tests to take and stuff to do like that. But the hours were like, back then, the hours were like being an intern. Now everything's changed for the better. But
Yeah. When you were there, how many, if you had to guess, roughly estimate, how many hours were you spending working and then also with school in a given week?
Oh, as a medical student in the third year of medical school, gosh, easily 110 hours, 120
Between
hours.
school and work?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it, well, it was
That's
the same as
crazy.
in residency. It was the same.
So basically every waking hour you're doing
Pretty much.
you're doing something.
You got some sleep, but some of the call as a medical student was every other night. So it's every other night, but then I couldn't go home during the day some days because I had classes and I had tests to take and classes to go to and group discussions to participate in.
And if they're like, "Hey, we need you to help this person," you can't just be like, "No, I'm good." You know, it's
Well, I could say I'm a medical student. You don't need me anyway.
Yeah.
I'm a medical student, so I'm going to take off. But you couldn't do that. You had to be there at night because somebody just decided. So there were no real rules about what you could be asked to do and what you couldn't be asked to do.
And if you're in that role, I'm assuming you feel compelled to help people and want to take care of people. So it's
and then the residency
that's
was even
just
more that way.
Do you remember just feeling like how are your energy levels during that period?
It
Okay,
was,
yeah.
it was horrible. I'm so glad it changed. I mean, I remember a couple of times just waking up and it was daylight and I would say, oh gosh, I'm late. And I'd just taken a nap, you know, it was 5 o'clock in the evening, at 5 o'clock in the morning. So,
like you didn't even know
no, it was just so discombobulated.
what time of the day.
It was so discombobulated.
Oh,
yeah. It was an interesting time. And residency was the same way. Just
do you look back fondly on it? Is it? Are you?
You know what? I did fine with it. Um,
Because it was almost like a rite of passage back then,
it
right?
was, and that's what all the old surgeons said. Well, we did it. You should. In fact, it's not as hard as when we went through. And so,
I think that's a theme
yeah,
people say all the.
of course it is. It was a lot harder in the
When
old
we were
days.
there, yeah.
But it was, I think, in some ways, it was really, really inhumane, and um, you get tired, and was a lot written. There has been a lot written about um, the fatigue, especially as a
Oh yeah.
resident, not as a medical student because you're not that important, but as a resident where you were tasked with responsibilities, including in the OR. Been a lot written about how fatigue was really detrimental to
Yeah, I mean, even on a if I don't sleep good for one night, I know my brain feels foggy, I feel weaker, it's harder to make decisions, let alone this cumulative buildup
I
over
think you'd
long
get used
periods
to
where
it,
you're
but there's a
yeah.
limit to what you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
tolerate.
But I can just see I mean, it's such an important profession and the work you're doing so important. And I know we were talking about this last night. I'm like, it's crazy how hard we push healthcare
Hmm.
professionals
Hmm.
sometimes in some roles and but
Well, they changed it. They made it better. I really hated
what
it
are the
because
do you know the changes?
the fundamental change was they said that they limited the work week, number of hours you could work in a week,
Is it
and
80 right
it's
now?
80. Yeah, so it's 80, but with a lot of caveats because you can't work you can't work 2 nights in a row.
Hmm.
You can't.
But
Um,
80 is still double the
80 still
standard
double the
work
40.
week.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a lot of it's a lot of hours. You have to
But
have a
better
day
than
off.
120.
It's better than it used to be. Um, you have to have a day off a week, and you have to have a weekend off a month. Those are sort of the most
The
important ones.
standard, yeah.
There are lots of shift-based ones and stuff like that, but that's the fundamental one. And the old way of doing it, you got tired, but it was going to be over. You knew it was going to be over. But the thing that I didn't like about it was that it made you, uh, it would make you cranky,
Mm.
and cranky could turn into angry easily.
That's
And
how I know I feel that way personally.
yeah,
Like I'm miserable if I don't get enough sleep.
yeah, you just get
You just
you're just
pissy.
short
You're like,
tempered
yeah.
and cranky, and that just for some of the people that I trained with, that never went away. Like
Mm.
even when they finished, they remained cranky and angry, and that was a really bad. I thought
And I'm
to
sure
me
that
that was the
seeps
worst
into
thing.
people's personal lives too,
Yeah,
which only would
of course,
reinforce, right? You start being angry, cranky with
of
your significant
course,
other, then they're mad at you. Now you're angrier and crankier. And
yeah,
you're,
of course. And we would get mad at the patients
yeah,
who
yeah.
would because they were the ones who were making us work. Like they were the ones. If the terminology was you'd catch a patient, like
Mm.
you'd catch a patient at night, and for an intern especially, that was a lot of work. It's a lot of back then. It was
Yeah, and then
paperwork.
some patients aren't always pleasant. I'm sure
No,
they can be
they're not
rude.
nice.
They can,
Uh huh.
criticize you. Others, I mean, in child welfare, it's the same where
Uh huh.
it's not everyone's as pleasant as everybody else is.
Uh huh.
And it's easy I could see you getting cynical because
You'd get
the bad stuff stands out
cynical
a bit
because
more.
that sometimes that I worked mostly at a what back then was predominantly a county hospital, and so the patients sound a lot like some of the people that you deal with.
Mm.
They just, and then sometimes it was, a guy who was an alcoholic who's off the street, and he got beat up by some other folks on the street, and he needed care, but to us, that was just work. He wasn't a
Yeah.
person; he was just work, and in other words, that's what it could turn into, which was
Yeah, and I
really a
think,
downside.
but also on another thought, you saying that is it is important for you to separate this is work versus getting so like deeply connected to every patient that you work with, everything that you're doing,
Mm-hmm. That's
because you
true.
you almost have to separate it
Yeah,
in
that's
your
true.
head to an extent, or else it'd be really really hard to
You
do
know,
the job.
that's a really good point. Now that I think about it, if you were working every other night in the hospital, and then the following day, um, working until the evening. They really weren't home very much. So there really wasn't much opportunity to get a separation because you were kind of just going home to go to sleep, to
Just to
get
be
up
thinking about
and
I got
do
to
it
get up
again.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Your nights at home started in the evening. You were exhausted because you didn't get any sleep the night before. So you were just sort of aiming towards going to bed, and
Oh,
go to
it's such a
bed, and then
crazy
you'd get up
world.
at 4 in the morning and go do it again. And the weekends, the way the weekends worked with an every other night call schedule is you'd get every other weekend off, but a weekend off meant that you'd take call in the hospital on Friday night, and then you got to go home on Saturday, usually about noon,
Mm.
and then you didn't have to come back until Monday morning. So that
And that
was
was really the
we
break.
you got the rest of Saturday and you got Sunday. The catch was that because there were only two people covering call every other weekend, when you were on,
Oh.
you would go in on Saturday morning and not go home until Monday evening.
So you never even got the break.
So
Oh wow.
it really wasn't much time off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it is. I mean, I'm assuming there's research on this, but the importance of separating your work and personal life a bit.
Yeah, surgeons interestingly didn't write that much about that. They wrote a lot about, or we wrote a lot about, um, whether being really, really tired meant that you couldn't do the work as well.
Mm.
That's what the medical world wrote a lot about that. And the conclusion, not surprisingly, was if you were really, really tired, you didn't do the job as well. You made more mistakes.
Yeah, you're placed in a position that's just it's
Yeah,
really difficult.
yeah, and it was bad. So, but and then I think the sometimes it would be stated, but the inference certainly was, and it's not good for your personal life too.
Yeah.
But that you've made a really interesting point about separating your life, the rest of your life from your work, and how that system back then made that really hard to do.
Yeah.
The way they've changed things now, you kind of know in advance when you've got some time off.
And even
Um,
then it's I'm sure with the system now it's hard enough. I mean, I know even for myself and I try to do a good job, but sometimes I'll lay a bed about asleep and I'm thinking about work or it's a
mm-hmm,
weekend and I'm
mm-hmm,
out with friends and I'm,
mm-hmm,
something I got to do for work pops in my head. I mean, it's hard enough in sort of normal
mm-hmm,
boundaries for lack of a
mm-hmm.
better term to always separate work. Like it's just such a big part of your life. I think it's
Well, and
important to have stuff outside of it.
you see some pretty raw stuff. So
As you did.
yeah, I mean both policemen,
Yeah.
firemen, what you do, what I did. Um, you see that. I mean, I think the rest of the world knows that's a hard thing to separate. It's a hard
Yeah.
thing to take, not leave. It's a hard thing to leave at work. Um, but I think that there might be one of those things where there's a difference between conceptualizing it and never having had to do it,
Yep.
and actually having to do it.
Yeah.
You're kind of This is sort of a new experience for you for the last couple of years.
Yeah, definitely.
So you're getting your experience of and it's good. I think it's good. And you already shared a really important insight about separating those two things.
Yeah.
Um, so that's good. You're ahead of the game. I really didn't get there until way way later.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I mean I'm not perfect at it, but I try to do some things like even if it's going on a long walk or just other stuff to just separate it a bit because it is different and I think I mean it's just crazy. I know we're both at such different stages of life, but for me as a 24-year-old, I'm like I have what 40 more years of working. That's a scary thought.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crazy thought to
Mm-hmm.
me. Like that's a lot of time and it's I mean at some point I know I live at home now but I'll be spending more time with my coworkers than my
Mm-hmm.
friends, my
Mm-hmm.
family.
Mm-hmm.
I mean it's just
What's
it's
what's
such a
what's
transition.
scary about it to you? Just how long it is that you'll be working, or The
Good
character
question.
of the work, or what's scary about it?
I don't know if scary is the right word, but just overwhelming thought
Mm-hmm.
that this is because you're in high school and then college and you're
Mm-hmm.
around and things are changing, and now I feel like I'm in the workforce. I'm like, wow, this is kind of, I know things will change around it, but this
Mm-hmm.
is gonna be the main thing for a
Mm-hmm.
long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it'll get, as I get older and get more experience, I'll have more flexibility
Mm-hmm.
and feel more equipped to I don't know, just do the things that I want to do even professionally. But
Mm-hmm.
the thought of it now, it just sounds, oh, it sounds like so much time, but I'm sure it goes quicker
Mm-hmm.
than
It's
I
like
probably
anything
think.
else. Yeah. I mean, it's 40 years, but you got 40 years of the other stuff too
Hmm.
that surrounds it.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to ever be at a point where the work stuff really detracts from the other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, that I feel like every time I get in front of a microphone on these podcasts, I say cliche things, but it's
Mm-hmm.
the work to live, not live to work.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think that's important, but it's also important to care about your work. So I don't know where the balance is, but where.
The important thing, I think, the wise old sage, I think that the important thing is that you're thinking about it. Because otherwise, you could do what I did for a number of years, which is just, okay, there's that goal over there. That's my next goal. I'm pointed towards it, and the stuff to the right and the left, I'm not paying that much attention to because that's my goal.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you say, well, when I get to that goal, then I'm going to start paying attention to the stuff to the right to the left. But then there's another goal in front of that one. So that's pretty easy to do. It's particularly easy, I suppose, in medicine because I'm thinking about my son's career path and harkening back to mine, where if you if you get into medical school, your life, especially if you're going to be a surgeon, your life is pretty much laid out for you
Hmm.
for at least another 10 years, if not longer. And you do have junctures where you go from being a student to being a resident, maybe being a resident to a fellow, and then from a fellow to a practicing physician. But even when you get to that great point where you're a practicing physician, you finished all your training, well, you still have to be often nose to the grindstone for at least 2 or 3 years because
Yeah,
you're establishing yourself, especially if you're doing something like surgery. You're establishing yourself, so um,
it's a grind.
you're having to, yeah, you're having to say yes to things
Yep.
that are maybe inconvenient, and you're having to prove yourself, especially in the OR.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Well, where were we in your life story? I think we were
Gosh,
at residency.
I think I started residency and I did my internship and residency at UC Davis. Um, did not even the thought of getting married did not even occur to me because
So how old were you at this point?
so at that point I was, let's see, I would have finished college. When do you finish college? You finish college at like 21.
Mm-hmm.
So I was 21 when I finished college, so I would have been 25 when I finished med school. So going into my internship I was about 25, 26.
Well, it would be really hard, I imagine. You're saying 110, 120-hour weeks to have a serious relationship.
That's why I didn't want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just, it almost feels unfair to the other person and yourself
Yeah.
because that'd just be a really, really perhaps impossible balance
And
unless,
I saw relationships in both in medical school and residency. I saw relationships where the people were in a relationship coming into those phases
hmm.
and they were not in that relationship going out. They were alone. They're by themselves. Which was honestly, I would do it that way over again. Um, if the work conditions were the way they
Yep.
were. The way it is now, I could totally see being in a relationship.
Well, at least you can
Um,
plan. I have this weekend off.
right,
I
right,
have this. I'm
right.
capped at these hours. For you, it sounded more just Wild West.
There's no rules.
I mean, almost the
Yeah.
sounds like they're almost placing you in a position where you need to have as little responsibilities as possible. Like you couldn't have a,
outside.
how could you even care for a
Yeah.
pet?
I,
That's
I
a,
would never have gotten a pet. Didn't
yeah,
get a pet until I finished my residency.
yeah.
Yeah, that's when I got a beagle. Yeah,
What was the beagle's name?
Greta.
Oh, so residency, and then what happened after that?
So I did residency, and the chair of surgery liked me, and I liked him, and he was
That's good.
pretty, yeah,
Mutual.
he was a fairly stern guy, but he really liked me, and he was a trauma surgeon, and I was interested in that partly because that's what he did.
So
And
what does trauma surgeon mean specifically?
okay,
Like I have an idea
so
in my head, but
it's really now the discipline has morphed a bit into trauma and emergency surgery. So it's the group that does the primary management of people who get hurt. So they get beat up, they fall down, they get into a car crash, they have a motorcycle crash, they get shot, they get stabbed.
these are urgent and non-elective procedures.
Yeah. So
essentially.
the basically the practice, with some exceptions, the practice is to just to take a pager and be on call for. We used to do it for 24
Yeah,
hours.
because you're not scheduling these. This is just
No,
people
these are
coming
people
in,
who
and
are
you just
coming
have to
in.
be ready to whatever it is, whatever it may be. You just got to be ready to address it.
That's right.
Oh, it's such
So
a crazy
I really
thought.
liked that part of it because
Yeah,
for
it's
two reasons. One was it was exciting because you didn't really know what you were going to get. Oh, and then there's a whole other section of it which is emergency surgery, which is acute cholecystitis, acute gallbladder disease,
mm.
appendicitis, bowel
Isn't it a
obstructions.
crazier appendix, or is that appendix, or
Uh
what's
huh.
the? It just does nothing. It's just there now.
It's
Like there was something evolutionary,
yeah, it probably
but
did
now
used to
at
do
best it does
something.
nothing, and at worst it could
It makes you sick.
kill
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. It's loaded with
It's like
white
wisdom
blood
teeth,
cells.
except worse.
It is like wisdom teeth. Yeah, that's good analog. Yeah. The good news is that if you don't need it, we can take it out and you're
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
But doesn't
Gallbladder's
it
kind of that way.
it when it does rupture, I heard this happened to one of my friends.
Mm-hmm.
It happened so quickly. Like he didn't even it wasn't like anything built up,
Mm-hmm.
it was so sudden. Like the
Mm-hmm.
thought of that scared me, that you could just wake up and
Mm-hmm.
you could just have appendicitis.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I guess there's lots of other things I'm sure you could think of that could also just happen.
Yeah. There's just lots of things brewing inside that can go
Yeah.
wrong. So we also that the discipline also takes care of all of those things.
Yep.
And those are also emergencies. And then, at least in our practice, a couple of the surgeons would specialize in some complicated areas. Like some people, for a variety of reasons, might lose a lot of their abdominal wall, like the muscle and the fascia of their abdominal wall. And so one of the guys in the practice I was in got really, really good at putting those walls back together. He had really great techniques that he learned by experience.
It's crazy. It's the way you're talking about it, it's almost like an art.
Yeah.
Like it's
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He was an artist with that. So he was
Yeah.
really good with that. Or if you had a patient that was really complicated and needed to go back to surgery a lot, many of us would hang on. I would hang on to those people. And so they
Because it was your former patient.
yeah, I had done the original operation.
Yeah.
I kind of felt obligated to do the
Yeah, it
subsequent
makes sense.
ones. Yeah. So that was the practice. And the guy who was the chair of surgery offered me a job. So I became an assistant professor. You may or may not know the hierarchy is assistant professor, associate professor, professor in most academic hierarchies. So I started out as an assistant professor of trauma surgery and took a lot of call and did a lot of operations and saw a lot of patients. And,
Yeah. This is the 40 years we're talking about here.
yeah, and then I was just off and running, and then had medical students and had residents that I worked with. So,
And it's a whole, I mean, I haven't done it myself, but I know my dad's expressed this, but it's a whole different thing doing your own work versus managing other people and teaching other people. I mean, that's a whole nother skill set
Mm-hmm.
outside of the actual work itself. That
Mm-hmm.
what was your experience with that?
I I really liked it because I liked working with residents in particular. I did a lot of medical school stuff too, medical student stuff, and I like that. That was a little bit harder in a clinical setting. That was a lot easier in a sit down lecture setting or group talk setting. But I liked working with residents, and it didn't take too terribly long for me to figure out um, which parts I either needed to do myself or slow everything
Mm-hmm.
down and kind of really talk somebody through. This was OR stuff. Outside the OR, it's easy. You're just a teacher. You teach
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Stuff comes up, and so it's easy. That things
When in
keep
real
coming up.
time, when you're responding to
If you're
stuff, you have
in the
to.
OR or it's a busy resuscitation in the ER, then you have to, that's different, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to decide when to exert yourself more.
What's interesting too, I feel like there's hierarchies in healthcare, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between residents and nurses and doctors and surgeons and all these different groups, I'm sure have their own sort of subgroups and
Mm-hmm.
different power differentials and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. So those are all interesting dynamics too.
That's a really good point. And the other thing I noticed, or I recognized from having been a trainee, but I also noticed really early on after my training was over and I became the guy, now there's nobody coming to help. Um, the power differential between me, even as a lowly assistant professor, and a medical student or an intern
Mm-hmm.
was immense. Like, I don't know that people recognize that enough in hierarchies that um, you don't know how much power differential you have if you're at the top
Oh
of
yeah,
that food chain.
yeah.
If you're at the bottom, you know full well how much more power the person at the top has. And so early on, just decided I needed to decide how forceful I needed to be and then dial it back.
Like how do I bridge this gap
It,
as best I can?
yeah, or just how do I exert my power but in a way where the message comes across but it's not hurtful.
Where it's helpful.
Yeah, where
It's
because that's the
useful.
goal, right?
Yeah.
The goal is not to terrify, the goal is to teach. And so I would decide the how forceful I thought something required from me, how forceful a response, and then I would just dial it back half, just say, and that worked fine. I
Yeah.
mean that, and people liked me because I was nice,
And
and
like you said, there was a lot of people who were cranky and angry, and it
yeah,
stuck with them forever. And they
yeah,
just,
and they stayed that way, and then the hierarchy did that.
yeah.
They either wanted to be that, to exert power that way and be that way.
And perhaps it's effective in the short term, but long term, maybe not.
Yeah, I
Maybe
didn't
not great.
didn't think it. I didn't, and it was unkind.
Yeah, yeah,
Ultimately concluded it's really unkind to
yeah.
terrify somebody.
It's
Um,
bizarre how many people are unkind or, upset and just seem like angry at times. I mean, I, I can see how you get there, but it feels not that hard.
where do you think that comes from? That
I think life can be tough, and I think things happen, and there's external things I'm sure that
mm-hmm,
people don't know about, and
mm-hmm.
I think sometimes people are just upset, or I don't know. That's a really deep question.
I think in the medical community, at least my observation, rightly or wrongly, was it came from insecurity, which is
Mm,
where so much of our
mm,
bad behavior comes from, right?
yeah, yeah.
These were surgeons who they were always terrified of something going wrong or looking bad. And if you're that way, you're you're scared all the time, and you're scared partly because you don't know that you have all the answers all the
Mm.
time, so you take it out on other people, and that's not right. I totally understand it. I just figured early on sometimes things were going to go wrong, and sometimes it was nobody's fault,
Yeah, yeah,
and
absolutely.
that I was going to make mistakes, and there were going to be things I wouldn't know, and that's why I loved a teaching environment, because I could ask somebody else. I learned from other people. I learned from people that were medical students. Um, I'm sounding like I was, Jesus making
No, no,
rounds,
you
but
don't. You don't.
it was really just,
You prior.
and it's my temperament. I think that's more
Yeah,
my
yeah.
natural temperament.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think relationships are just so important. I mean, they're just important to humans in general, of course, but especially in fields like ours where there is a lot of it's emotionally charged.
Mm-hmm.
It feels always urgent, and
Mm-hmm.
there's high risk, and there's stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, having relationships with people and trusting people and stuff like that is it just makes the job that much better, and it's just another thing. I mean, there's already enough to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that you have good relationships with people and they trust you and they respect you, and vice versa is so important. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it just seems like it'll make this next 40 years so much better if I have good relationships with my
Mm-hmm.
colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I've been fortunate in this job to I really really do like the vast majority of the people I work with.
Well, and you were saying last night that you help each other, which
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
so there's some, I mean, that also makes you feel good about the environment,
Definitely.
and it's of practical significance,
To
right?
do my I'll do my Jesus story. So- um but I've shared this on the podcast too, but I had a coworker and she was dealing with a pretty horrific case. I obviously can't talk about details, but she was at the hospital, and she was managing something in it, and I was doing a visit kind of near her, and I texted her. I'm like, "Hey, I know I might not even be able to come in. I'm going to sit in the parking lot for an hour before my next visit. If you need anything, I'm
Mm-hmm.
here." Ended up not needing me at all, and she sent the nicest message just saying to our whole team like, "Thank you so much for showing up. It meant so much to
Just
me."
knowing that you
Yeah,
were
I mean,
there.
it made me feel
Yeah.
so good and
Yeah. Yeah.
wholesome,
Yeah.
and I did mean it. Like, if she needed anything, I mean, I what she was dealing with was awful. I'm like, I'm so glad that meant so much to you that I even
Mm-hmm.
showed up. And part of it is it obviously ended up feeling good for me too. But
Uh-huh.
that's a good thing. I want to do
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
stuff like that, and if
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
feels good and reinforces my behavior to do so, great.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're gonna, I mean, as you progress, you're gonna end up having employees and people that look up to you, and there'll be a power differential,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you just have to figure out how to manage it. And managing it kindly sometimes might mean that, like, if you're in a business type environment, I suppose that might mean that you give people more chances than probably you should have sometimes. And before you, like, let's say, fire someone,
yeah.
that you give it, you give them more and more chances and more chances and more
Well, I think,
chances.
and like the discussion we were having at dinner last night, it's not just more chances, it's also genuinely wanting to understand
Mm-hmm.
if we perceive someone as, being lazy or making a mistake,
Mm-hmm.
to understand if there's other factors that we're not even aware
Mm-hmm.
of, that perhaps the power differential, they don't feel safe to share certain information or
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that, and
Mm-hmm.
creating a relationship where they can trust you, and that information is useful for you, even if it's something that maybe warrants firing later
Mm-hmm.
on.
Mm-hmm.
At least even for you as the person, as the manager, you can feel better knowing I tried, I did all these things, I understood this just isn't the right fit,
Mm-hmm.
but at least we tried. And
Mm-hmm.
then there will be other people who may have been fired had you not gone down
Mm-hmm.
that route, but then you were able to find stuff to
Mm-hmm.
support them. So I think it's really cool the way we discuss, because obviously my dad and I have this safety science perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
you bring up such good counterpoints, and it never feels like an argument. It feels like a discussion,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like there's a distinction there. So that's something I noticed last night too. I'm like, you're so good at discussing.
Mm-hmm. Well, your dad has taught me a lot. He's taught me a lot about what you, but including what you just articulated. That there's always a why behind what people do, and that why is super important for
Yeah.
all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, of course.
And it's also consistent with being compassionate, which is good.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, we keep diverging from the life story. So where are we on this path? We're
So
somewhere in the middle.
I've
New
finished.
Year's 2001. No, just
So I finished my residency, and then I joined the practice at UC Davis and became one of only 4 trauma surgeons. So we were really, 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 really busy.
What is it typically in a hospital of
Now
serving
it's
that
now
size?
there's they have a lot more responsibility now because the service is much bigger. But now the typical thing would be you'd have enough folks so that you might take call once a week in the hospital. Usually now it's in the hospital. Back then, we would take call at the attending level a week at a time.
Mm.
And so you could go home, but you had to be available, fairly quickly available, for the whole week.
So like
Morning
phones on,
morning and night.
it rings.
Yeah,
You're
had to,
just
it was pager back
or
then.
pager, yes.
But yeah, you had your pager
I don't
on
think
the
I've
whole
ever
time.
actually seen a pager with my own eyes.
I think they still use them in some medical environments
Yeah.
because the phones can screw up some of the medical equipment. But it was a call a week at a time, and you would make rounds every morning. And so there were 4 of us who did that. So it was 1 week a month, and then we split it up a little bit. There were different ways of doing it, but now I would say the typical thing is call maybe on average every 5th, 6th, 7th night.
Mm. And you guys were splitting it between 4.
Between 4 of us, which I actually liked. We didn't have to sleep in the hospital, which I liked, and you did proportionally more operations that way.
Mm.
Now, if you have more people and the pie is the same size, you don't have as many operations to do.
So are you the part you enjoyed was the operations?
I liked it all.
Yeah.
But I did
Oh,
like
wow.
operating, yeah.
That's such a cool thing to say for
Yeah.
how sad is it that there's so many people in their jobs who would never say that?
No,
I
it
liked
was
it all.
super fun. Yeah, super fun. I
Yeah.
think your dad would say he likes it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
So, yeah, one thing that
But I don't know if he'd say I liked it all.
one thing I did do, I didn't start doing this until after about maybe 10 years into my career, but one thing I did do was make a concerted effort to make a shift about every 4 years. So I would I would try to figure out what I could do to shift things. So the first shift was that I went from being a worker bee to being in charge.
Mm.
That only took about 5-6 years, but I went from being the low man on the totem pole worker bee to being the guy in charge of the trauma service. And then over the course of my career, I was the vice chair of the surgery department. I was the chair of the surgery department. I was a chief medical officer for a private company in town that was hiring surgical hospitalists. I went out to a level 2. I went out to a smaller hospital that wanted to be a trauma center, and I joined their staff, and pretty much full time for a couple of years, set up a trauma service for them.
That's so cool. All the different experiences.
Yeah, well, I would recommend it to you.
Yeah.
I had the luxury of people that I worked for who were accommodating, but also just there were lots of options for me.
Yeah,
in the
almost
course
like
of my career,
adventures you went on.
things
that were,
I could do
that were useful.
if I wanted to.
Yeah.
I didn't have to, but they were great for keeping me engaged. And then things
Yeah,
didn't
instead of
get
doing the
redundant.
same thing every
Right.
day for
Just
40 years.
brand new stuff.
Yeah.
Gotta learn it. Gotta
Oh, and I
prove
can't
yourself.
even imagine how your skill set is just from I mean, not only the years, but all the breadth of experience you did. I mean,
I got to
there's
do some different things. Yeah.
yeah, it's just your ability to think about things, even compared to most other surgeons, I'm sure is just so unbelievably amazing.
I had more different kinds of experience,
Yeah,
yeah, than many. Not
which
all,
keeps
but
things interesting,
yeah.
and it's super
Oh,
useful at the same time. I mean,
and it made it much easier for me to see I liked it all
yeah,
because it got fresh
yeah,
every
yeah.
4 years or so, and so I did a lot of different things, which was super fun.
So, what was it like when you did finally have a relationship and a family and balancing that? Were you at a point where it was perhaps more
Yeah.
manageable?
Well, yes, it's a winding road to that because I finished my residency. I was doing uh, trauma surgery. I was about 3 years out. I had a professor in a different discipline in urology who I liked. He was a super nice guy. I had overlapped with him a little bit in training, and he's this older guy.
Goes back to relationships.
Yeah, super super nice guy, and he liked me. And I met his wife at a like a mixer kind of thing, and she liked me, and she had a younger sister, and she said she was a very visual kind of the sister that I met was a very visual kind of um, I have a feeling sort of person, and she said I have a feeling that Dave would be good for my sister Liz, and Liz was about my age, so that back then that would have been mid 30s, and Liz was unattached, so they set up a blind date for us at their house. And so I met Liz, and that turned into a relationship, and then we got married. So I didn't know if you know I'd been married before.
No.
Yeah, so we got
Wow,
married.
I never knew that.
So we got married, and I was probably 36, maybe.
Yeah.
She was a graphic designer from San Francisco, and um, kind of we were talking. I don't know if you were in on the conversation. We were talking about how my son, who comes up with these really, really thoughtful things that he puts in that are in short snippets. He came up with a thought about relationships. He said, um, every relationship needs a gas pedal and a brake, and
I like that.
so like this woman, I'm kind of tend to be a brake. Um, I'm not a big planner. I don't, my life then and even later was one where I was tired all the time and I didn't have the energy to make plans. So I met her, and she was a gas pedal and I was the brake, and so that worked okay for a little while. Um, but then uh, she really couldn't find work in Sacramento, and
Mm.
I really so there was some pressure to try
And
to
you were
find a
like in your
job, and
career and you were
yeah, I
doing
mean, things were working out well here, and but I did look at some jobs in San Francisco, and we looked at some houses in San Francisco, and then the whole thing just kind of fell apart. So,
it's crazy I mean, obviously you couldn't know, but how different your life would have been had
oh
you
God, no
moved to
kidding.
San Francisco.
Yeah, no
You wouldn't
kidding.
even
That
know.
would have been really different. And in the meantime, I was entertaining jobs. It was a point in my career where I was attractive because I was young, so pretty malleable, and I was and relatively inexpensive because I was young,
Inexperienced.
and I had pretty good experience
Yeah.
by then. So this was kind of 35
You're
to
like an
40.
ideal
It
person to hire.
would have been great. Yeah, I was because I was right in that sweet spot where you're not too young, you're not too
Hmm.
old, you have enough experience, but you're not hidebound. You don't have a ton of demands.
Yeah.
You just take the job. And so I was flying off to look at jobs all the time. Um, and the San Francisco jobs were just not very good. So so it all fell apart, and we ended up getting divorced. Not after a really long time. Like we just just kind of floated. I think she kind of hoped to get back together, but and I just didn't think about it. And so it was, gosh, good 6, 7 years later that we got divorced. So
Oh, wow, yeah.
we were married. We were married for about 7 years, but
Yeah.
for probably 3 or 4.
I mean, it's hard when you put a lot of time and energy and money, and it's hard to get out of that. That's
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of sunk cost fallacy. That's like a psychological thing.
No.
Basically saying the more energy, time, focus, whatever that we put into something, the harder it is for us to get out of it or
Mhm.
leave it. And
Mhm.
a classic example in business would be, you put money in this
Mhm.
company and it's failing, but then
Mhm.
you want to double down because
Right.
you've already invested
Right.
in it. So that's
Right. Right.
that
No,
comes
it's
into
good.
play.
Good analogy. Yeah. So
So what happened after that? I had no
so
idea. You were
then,
married for 7 years.
yeah, it was. I can't even remember how long it was,
Six,
but something
7.
like that. Yeah.
Do
So
you know the 6, 7 thing? Your
no.
kids are older. I honestly don't even know what it means, but like Ken will say it. It's a dumb TikTok
What
meme
is it?
people
What is it?
say.
I think I
They
did hear
just do
about that,
six,
but what does it
seven.
mean? Just
Oh, I really
six,
don't
seven is
know.
just
I've heard
sort
it's
of,
from a song
it's
or
sort
like,
of ho hum, or
yeah,
is
kind of
it
like,
sort of just something to
it's
say,
just something people say and
or
like mock
I
now.
hear you, or what? What is it?
You know,
What? How should I use it?
you shouldn't.
I shouldn't. Yeah. Okay. If I try to use it, it's most likely to be wrong, and that's even worse. If I got it right, that's bad, and if I get it wrong, that's even worse. Well, I got divorced. Around about that time, I met Karen, who I saw in the gym. This is going to sound really, really schmaltzy, but I saw her in the gym,
I
and
think that's got to be one of the best places to meet
it
someone.
was,
They're taking care of themselves,
yep,
it's good.
yep. And I wasn't really. I was kind of thinking, okay, I took my shot at marriage, didn't work out. I don't know if I want to do that again. There's really no point in doing that. It's if it's not going to work out again, that'd be awful. Um, but I saw this woman at the gym, and it's this again. The schmaltzy part is the first time I saw her, I thought, not the classic "I'm going to marry that woman," but rather, boy, if she would take me, I would marry that woman. But hadn't said a word to her. Didn't know anything
you,
about her.
you got this whole
There was just something,
story in your head.
just an aura
Yeah.
about her that was special. And so, but of course, I'm too chicken to just say anything to her. I don't know what her
It's a
situation is.
crazy thought to go up to a girl at the
Well,
gym and
I don't want to
hey,
be
I'm
that.
game.
I don't want to be that creepy guy at the gym who goes up and accosts somebody. But then one day I did start talking to her, and
In the gym.
in the gym. It was at the gym, and I started talking to her, and so just short conversation. See you later. But then I asked her out for coffee,
Speaking of.
and or a glass of wine, and she kept saying no. And so I must have asked, I don't know, 7 times, and
6, 7 times.
6, 7 times, 6, 7 times. And I said, I'm going to ask one more time. And if the answer is, if she always said, she didn't say no. She said, I'm busy. I got this going on. I got that going on. And if she's busy again, I can take a hint, even though this is somebody I looked at for the first time ever and said, I could marry that person. Enough is enough. This is enough humiliation.
Yeah.
And
It only takes so much.
she has told me subsequently that she was sort of saying, yeah, I'd like to have a cup of coffee or a glass of wine with this guy. And,
Yes.
but I have been busy, and he keeps asking, and I better say yes one of these times or he's going to stop asking. In fact, this might be the last time. So anyway, she said yes with the qualification that I had to meet her at something she was doing. So she was going to a Christmas.
She really was busy.
She was super. Well, she's always busy. She's super busy. She's a gas pedal that's floored about half the time.
You're still the break.
Yeah, I'm the brake, but sometimes I have to be the emergency brake, but I'm the brake. Yeah. So she said yes, and we met, and then we just pretty much. It took a couple weeks maybe, but I kept asking, and I went
So
over
this
to her
is
house, and
Christmas
this would have been
2020 or
yeah, it was
2000
Christmas 2000. Yeah,
going into New Year's
going
Eve
into New Year's
2001.
2001, and then kept asking, and then she said, "Well, there's." I said, "Well, what are you doing for New Year's?" I'm on call. She said, "I'm going to this party, but if you can make it, you could come over." And so, between calls, I went over there in scrubs
with a
with a
blazer on.
sport coat on.
So last night there's this question thing my mom likes, and we pulled a card that said if you could relive 1 week of your life, what would it be? And Dave picked this New Year's 2001.
Yeah, kind of the week straddling New Year's 2001, because
I love the thought of you in scrubs with a blazer on.
green scrubs and a blue blazer, and she was there with some friends, and I met the friends, and figured maybe this was gonna be the start of something really great. So, and it was, and we started pretty much hanging out together a lot. And I had agreed to go to Hawaii to look at a job, and that happened first couple of weeks in January, I think. I had agreed to go to Hawaii to look at the chair of surgery job.
That would have been a switch up.
Yeah, it was the timing was really, really weird, and I didn't want to tell them. Well, I've met this woman, and I don't really know her yet that well.
So over in Hawaii, they felt like you were going to take this position.
I was a serious candidate.
Yeah.
They don't usually invite you unless they think you're serious about it, and they're serious about you. And I think if I had said yes to that job, I think I would have got it. I don't think I would have liked it. So fortunately, it wasn't a very good job. Fortunately, because I probably wouldn't have taken it anyway if it had been a good job.
Yeah.
We would talk every night, and she was in Sacramento, and actually watching my dog in my house. And I was in Hawaii thinking, God, how much longer is this trip? Because I'm not taking this job. It was another couple of days of shaking hands and being nice to people and asking them serious questions about what the job's like. So I kind of turned that job trip into talking to the people at the end and saying, I'm not interested anymore, but here are some things I learned that you might change around, or that people might like or dislike. And so I kind of turned it into a consultant's visit.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure they appreciated the feedback.
It was better than paying.
And at least you got to go to Hawaii.
I got to go to
Iowa or
Oahu for a week. And then I came back, and then we just hung out. And she had it all kind of set up to move back to the Bay Area.
Planner.
Because she had been married too. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I did not.
But Karen had been married too, and she was recently divorced. And
so you guys were like, we're on the same page.
We were on the same page, except that my divorce meant that I was gonna, unless I took a job somewhere else, gonna stay in Sacramento. And her divorce meant that she more than likely was going to get out of Sacramento. So she wanted to go back to the Bay Area. So I don't know that I pressured her that much, but I exerted subtle, indirect pressure. And she ultimately decided not to go back, which was great. So and then she moved in with me. And then we went through 9/11. I was supposed to leave town that morning, get on an airplane. And
where were you headed?
I was going to Seattle. I was going to a meeting in Seattle, kind of a pre-meeting for the meeting.
How crazy would that have been if you were on the plane when it happened and then you
land?
land?
Or in Seattle, I couldn't have gotten home.
Yeah. Oh.
So
I'm talking about it like I remember it. I was hardly born, but.
And then we, let's see, then we decided to get married, and we got married in the early part of 2001.
Where at?
We got married super, super small, like just one person witnessing for us at a place called the Albion River Inn.
Is that in Sacramento?
No, it's over on the coast.
Okay.
And it was a place that I had taken care of. And I had gone up to Chico to help a guy with an operation. He had a complicated patient, and he had asked me to come up and help him out, and I said sure. So I did, and he wanted to pay me back in some way. I told him it wasn't necessary, but he gave me a really generous gift certificate to this Albion River Inn, and so I sat on it for like a year, and then met Karen, and
You're like,
the person worth taking. So we've been there a number of times, and it's where I asked her to marry me, and it's where we got married.
oh wow,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
Do you guys still go?
We haven't
every
been
now
in a while. Life's been a little complicated for a while, but so we haven't been in a while. But yeah, it's one of our favorite places.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we're married. Now what?
So we're married, and then we very quickly had a baby on the way.
Shout out Pete.
And then Pete was born, and for both Pete and then we had Ava about a year and a half later, and for both kids.
Pete's the gas pedal, Ava's the brake in this analogy.
No, Pete's more of a brake.
Oh.
And Ava's more of a gas pedal. Ava's definitely a gas pedal.
Maybe I got it flipped. I
Pete's
see Pete more as planner, all that. No
Yeah,
offense,
but
Ava, but I see Ava more like
more-
my brother is kind of more go with the flow.
What would you call Jack? A gas pedal or a brake? Or does it not fit in his case?
I don't know. Well, let's define these
Okay.
more. Let's
Gas
your head.
pedal is somebody who's very social,
okay,
plans to do things socially, or like maybe in Jack's case, they just happen for him. He's just in an
Yeah.
environment. I think if you
yeah.
put
Well, then I say Jack and I would both be a gas pedal.
okay, there you go. So is Anna Kate a brake?
She'd be more so a brake.
More brake. Yeah. I mean, it's not obviously these are
yeah. We're
perfect
just stretching the-
analogies, and they and then there are probably extremes at both ends. But yeah, Pete would be that's our son would be more of a brake, and Ava would be more of a gas pedal.
Are we almost using it synonymously with extroverted, introverted?
Yeah, kinda. Yeah, that would work.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
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 Then yes, I agree with Pete being more of a brake.
Yeah.
Ava more of a gas pedal.
Yeah. When I think of introvert and extrovert and apply it to relationships, yeah, I guess that works. Ideally, every relationship has somebody who kind of leans towards
Mm-hmm.
being an introvert and one that leans towards being an extrovert.
Well, I've always told Anna Kate, I'm like, thank God you aren't as talkative or energetic as me. We would be miserable to be around as a couple. That'd be way too much. But so what was it like? So you have Pete and you're like, I'm a dad. That's got to be crazy.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, it's people say it's a hard thing to describe, and they're right. I think for new parents, just there's just something magical about having a baby, especially your first baby, I suppose. We were getting some ice cream this morning, and there were 4 people sitting, a younger couple, and an older couple, and then a new baby, a brand new baby, and they're all just doing what you do, which is just sit there and stare at the baby.
Yeah.
So I think for being a dad,
Just waving at the baby.
Yeah. For being a dad, I don't know what other dads feel, but I felt like this magic, but I also felt like I knew it was coming, but I felt but a lot of responsibility. Like, I know it's sort of sexist to say, but the way our life had evolved to that point, it was kind of going to be up to me to provide a home, make sure we had groceries, those
yeah,
kind
and
of mundane
if it was
things.
just you or even just you and Karen, it doesn't carry as much weight. You're like, yeah, figure it out. Now you're like, no, I want the best for my kid. Like I
Right.
don't want. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a whole different.
Yep.
You really it really takes you out, I guess, of your own narcissism that we all have to say, wow, I got a lot more to lose now.
And a lot more to be responsible for.
Yeah.
The one of the things that I knew it before we had Pete, but I knew it even more afterwards was, I mean, Karen and I love each other. We've been married forever, and I loved her then, and I love her now. But if you're in a relationship with somebody, you can, if it's just not working. I mean, we had both done this once. If it's just not working, you can walk away from that, and we both did, and now there's really there's no there's no repercussions from that in either of our cases. But once we had a son, once we had a boy, once we had a child,
Oh
that's
yeah, you
different.
can't
I
just
mean, you can't just go, well, people
people
do it,
do.
but you shouldn't just
Yeah.
say, well, you
It
know what?
becomes a lot more
Yeah,
complicated.
I don't want to be a dad anymore. See ya. I'm out of here. Or I don't want to be a mom anymore. See you guys. I'm gone. You can't.
It's another level of commitment
Mm-hmm.
that's just and it's like back to the residency days. You're tired. Not only are you dealing with your normal job and
Mm-hmm.
life responsibilities, now you got to take care of a kid.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And it's
crazy.
not a short-term commitment.
No.
It's a long-term
And you're
commitment.
not you it's so funny to me the first few years of life, like your whole job is just keeping them alive.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
that's the main goal.
Mm-hmm.
And you're and they cost money and it's yeah, it is a really oh, it's so interesting.
They pay you back though.
Yeah.
They do, and they don't have to. They just have to smile at you, and they pay you back. Yeah,
Aw.
it's it's the best word I've come up with to describe it, at least in my case, was it was magical. It's just, and having our daughter, it was the same thing. Just she has her own. She had even then, her own set of things, and
Is it does it feel different to you being a dad with a son versus a daughter?
yep.
How so?
I think I feel more protective of her. Again, this is all stupid gender based stuff, but the world hasn't changed enough so that that's not a reasonable concern.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel more protective of her. And then I also kind of feel like, at least in our case, there's just there's this kind of special bond that has sort of developed for us, where I have this really special bond with her, and Karen has this really special bond with Pete. And I think that's a good thing. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that the other parent isn't also really super important, but there's a specialness to the bonds that are different.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool. So what I'm trying to think how to word this. I'm curious. I guess how important is prioritizing or how do you balance like so you have a family.
Mm-hmm.
I think in my head, and my dad has said this too, it's really important that you and Karen or my dad and my mom that they have a healthy relationship because your
Mm-hmm.
kids are watching that.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps even more so than putting that before your relationship with your kids.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think
I
along?
think that's a really good point. I think that's an excellent point. Um, yeah, and your dad is versed in the science of it too, and it's probably, I would imagine it's true that children of parents who have good relationships just do better in a whole lot of different ways than children of parents who have bad relationships. So there's a practical reason to it. Um, but I actually think there's a lot of truth to that. Fortunately, I don't, Karen and we've been, I think it was helpful to both of us to have been married before. Because we learned a lot. We learned a lot of specific stuff, but we also learned a lot about that you could just let some stuff go, and
Yeah.
it wasn't going to be the end of the world. You just, yeah, that a relationship is compromised, all the cliches, but that um, not everything is a
Is
bridge worth
worth a
fighting
battle.
over.
Yeah.
And lots of times the other person is right, so digging your heels in is stupid. Um,
Or multiple perspectives are true.
or both people are
Right.
right, and that's okay.
Yeah, it is sad how I've thought about this. Someone on AK's side of the family, they divorced, and I was thinking about it. They'd been together like 30 or so years.
Mm.
And I'm like, now after you divorce, there's 30 years of good memories, neutral memories, but also bad memories that you can pull from. 30 years of that to just look back on and be bitter about. I'm like, that's such a sad, that's such a scary thought to me
Mm-hmm.
that something like that could happen. So you said this earlier. I'm curious from your perspective. You said at some point you realized this relationship isn't working with your
Mm-hmm.
first.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you and Karen's relationship is working, has
Mm-hmm.
been working.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know something's not working? How do you know something's working? And more importantly, how do you keep something working?
Mm. Really good questions, and really good questions coming from a guy who's going to get married in the spring.
Teach me all the answers.
Yeah, gosh, I wish I had them.
Don't we all?
How do you know that something isn't working? Um,
Because that's a hard thing to get to.
I don't. My stupid answer is just Um, and I actually think a mistake I made was that I knew. I'll come back to maybe more specifics about
Yeah,
how you
yeah,
know, but I knew that it hadn't worked. It wasn't going to work, and I didn't make the break as fast as I should have. I just let it kind of linger and fester in a way. And I knew I wasn't getting back with her. She maybe thought that she was going to get back with me, but so she let it go too. And I think that was a mistake. I think we should have just said after about 3 years, well, no, sorry, this isn't working. Um, but in terms of specifics, we just, what I had found attractive in her turned out when I spent more time with her and we were in a variety of different circumstances, um, where they were characteristics that I didn't find that attractive anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Or, well, not any, maybe not even anymore. They'd never been, when I saw them in their completeness, they just weren't that
Yeah,
attractive. So,
that makes sense.
like, she
Yeah.
was really particular about design. She was really particular about colors. Um, if we walked into a motel room and the carpet was a weird color, we couldn't stay at that motel.
Mm.
It was stuff like that, and I didn't care about that kind of stuff. She's a nice person, and she didn't do anything wrong. Didn't turn out to be a monster, but we were fighting all the time.
Yeah.
And then her job and my job just were not going to mesh in terms of our being together unless one of us made a huge compromise.
It almost sounded like y'all's values just didn't align, and this just happened to become more apparent.
I think
Whether
that's
it
true.
was career or attention to details or,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's probably all stemming from rather bigger values that you guys
But I
had.
think we also had I mean, it's particular to our particular
Yeah, yeah.
case, but we also had, and maybe I'm sure this is true for other people. My job was in Sacramento, her job was in the Bay Area. The only way we were going to be able to live together is if either I moved down there or she moved up to Sacramento. So one of us was going to have to make
To
a
sacrifice.
pretty big compromise. And originally, she thought it was going to be her, and so she did move up to Sacramento, but she kept her place in the Bay Area, which was fine because I liked going down there. But there just wasn't the kind of work she wanted just didn't exist in Sacramento.
Mm.
So, and for me, the kind of work I wanted just didn't exist in San Francisco. So
So it
Um,
was also circumstantial, I guess.
yeah, and but the circumstances were big that way,
Yeah,
and the relationship wasn't working out good enough for
to
either one
overcome
of us
that.
to do it. For Karen, the way our relationship worked out, I would have moved for her in a heartbeat. Like if she had said, "I really want to go back to the Bay Area. I don't like Sacramento." I just said, "Let me start looking for
I'll
jobs,
figure it out.
and we'll let me get a job, and then we'll get a house, and then it'll be all okay." Because that relationship was
Yeah,
so
yeah.
precious to me. The other one was becoming less and less precious over time, and
And this one's becoming more and
more and
more.
more precious. God, I would say we've been married for 23 years, and it's more precious each day. Really, she's fantastic. So, um, but to go back to your observation and your dad's observation, it's really important to model that for your kids. Um, I don't think you can. Modeling it is the wrong way to put it. You just you,
You're not acting.
yeah,
You gotta.
you want it to be, and if you do have a fight, you work it out
Yeah,
so that
yeah,
it's not lingering for 2 weeks, and the kids are watching you not communicate, and that's stupid.
yeah.
So,
And unfortunately, it's easy to get to that point as it is being bitter in your job or other
hmm
stuff, and it's
hmm
you have to fight against it, or
yeah,
I guess come to the realization that this, I think we get caught up, or at least I know I do. Sometimes smaller things. I'm like, in the grand scheme of things, how much does this really matter?
hmm
And that's something you you can definitely know a lot more than I do
yeah.
now.
Well, you're wise beyond your years,
Oh, I
so
appreciate it.
hopefully you take that into your marriage.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what? So for being a dad, if anything, is there anything that you would have done differently, and what do you think you've done really well, or maybe
Hmm.
perhaps not even you personally, but what advice would you give to someone who's going to be a
Um,
dad
I
to do
I
and what not
think,
to
I
do?
mean, my job really kept me away from the kids more than I would have liked. I don't know that I would do it differently. Maybe I would.
Yeah,
Um, I was still, I'm still home a lot, and I still went to most of the events that I could go to, at least put in an appearance. Um, I would,
I think that's something most dads would feel to an extent, right? Is that
yeah,
a
I think some more than others.
yeah,
And if you had 6 kids, maybe not as much as if you had just have two, one boy and one girl. Um, but yeah, so sort of an obligation to be there
mm,
some, and not, even if you're in a somewhat traditional relationship with your spouse where the woman is the one who kind of takes care of the home and the kids, and the dad goes off to work. Even if you're in that kind of relationship, just trying to make up for it as much as you can. Um, and I think I did that pretty well. But I also could say I could have done better.
yeah,
So
yeah.
both things are kind of true. Um, I don't know. What else did
Well,
you ask me?
what do you think you did really well, and what advice would
Um,
you give?
I would say I did that really well, and then I think uh, pretty well, and then I think I just was a kind of a steady presence, um, like emotionally too. Just kind of, I wasn't super. After the kids got a little older, I wasn't super. Like here I'm as dad. I'm going to give you some advice.
Hmm.
I wasn't that kind of dad, but I was just kind of there as a
Which really matters. I know
solid.
from child welfare research,
Uh-huh.
stability and just being there. I mean, that matters a lot more than any random grand gestures every now and then.
Mhm.
Is that presence and showing up and being there for your kids. So that's a
And I think they just thought of me as kind of especially when they were young, just pretty solid, you
you know
know.
what you're gonna get.
Yeah, solid. I'll help you if you need it. I'm not gonna interdigitate
Yeah.
myself in your life a, a ton. I'm gonna do it some. If you want me to do flashcards with you for your Spanish test, no problem.
And I'm sure
I'd love
all
that.
your experiencing managing people in your professional life only helped you so much more
Yeah, maybe.
when you were doing that.
Yeah, maybe.
and
the
being
the
patient
being
and
being kind
yeah.
part, yeah, because there's obviously a power differential with a kid
Yeah,
too.
yeah, of
So,
course.
um, and so what did I not do well? I think you asked me that too. Um, I think I could have been around more.
It is hot up here.
Sorry, I get hot, and
Oh no, it's I'm hot too.
part of
It's
my treatment makes my temperature
yeah,
sensor
yeah.
stuff weird. Um, I could have been around more, and then I wish I had spent more time, especially with Peter. I wish I'd spent more time just doing what I think you and your dad do. I mean, you just talk. You know, you just hang out and talk. We do that now. Ironically, that I'm kind of sick and have been at home a bunch. Um, when he's home, we often it's late at night because everybody else is asleep,
Mhm.
and he'll stay up with me, and often over a bourbon, we'll just talk. And gosh, do I love that.
Yeah, it's such a simple, I don't know, act, but it's so meaningful. I know,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for you as a dad and from my perspective as a kid, it's really cool to have a relationship with our parents and
Mm-hmm.
connect. And I mean, I know I learned so much from my dad. I learned so much from
Mm-hmm.
you when we talk
Mm-hmm.
together, and I
Mm-hmm.
know Pete feels the same way. So yeah, that's a really cool reflection.
Yeah. So I wish I'd done more of that, and I'm catching up a little bit. And then with Ava, um, like I said, we've kind of over the last couple 3 years developed a little bit closer relationship, and now it's pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty amazing the family that you've built, and I know it's not
Yeah.
without a lot of hard work and sacrifices and all of it.
I think I was the background guy who provided the structure and some stability is the wrong word, but I just kind of a presence,
Yeah.
just this presence in
I
the
feel like you
background.
could provide stability and not be present.
Right. No, it's just kind of there's and then there's dad, and dad is solid. Karen is really responsible for the way the kids have turned out. I'm convinced like 75-25 split. I'll take the 25. But she's fantastic at that. And she is much more um involved than I am. And by involved I mean that in both the positive and the negative way. Um and I'm a little bit more I
Yeah,
will
they'll figure it out.
occasionally say to her, just yeah, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Um, and that's actually something I think I did well, which was to be the guy who said, this is something we just need to back off on.
Sounds just like a really good balance.
It's
That
gas pedal brake,
yep.
you know.
There that it
Yeah.
yes. Gas pedal brake. Well, I guess we can get to the big topic.
Okay.
I'm almost curious. So you were diagnosed with cancer, which is I mean, wow. I don't even know the right words, but I guess we can start. What was that like being diagnosed?
um, it was I kind of the way it happened. This is maybe important to how it affected me. Um, I had been having some leg pain, and I was seeing a sports medicine doctor for it. And we finally got an MRI, and the sports medicine doctor called me as I was walking into a physical therapy office to have some more physical therapy for my leg. And she said, "Yeah, we got the MRI results back, and you do have disc disease, and a good explanation
Mm,
for your leg pain, but there are all these other things, and there's all these other findings, and some stuff in the bones that is unexplained." And MRI is
it
not the
just
best
makes
way
my
to make
like
the cancer diagnosis. So I knew it was cancer, and I knew it was probably prostate cancer because that made the most sense with what she was
and
describing.
unfortunately you have the knowledge to know.
So yeah, I'm kind of going, well, okay, I got prostate cancer. So
That just
didn't
makes
know
my
how
like
bad.
stomach drop.
So I went home and told Karen, and then very quickly I went in and saw an oncologist, got a biopsy, and sure, yep, it was prostate cancer. And the first oncologist I had and talked to about it, um, quickly said, well, it's prostate cancer, and it's in a lot of different places. So it's in 8 or 9 places in your bones. It's in the whole left side of your pelvis
I'm
is
assuming that's
cancer.
bad.
Yeah, it's bad. It means
That's bad.
it means it's probably not. It means it's not curable. So there's some lymph nodes that are enlarged. There's a deposit in your in your collarbone. There's a deposit in
It's like your entire body.
yeah. It's all it had. Well, the cancer cells break off, the prostate in particular, break off and float around, and then they just land somewhere, and they go, oh yeah, this is a good place to start over. And so that I have some in my spine, and but anyway, it's everywhere. And so I knew that I had an incurable prostate cancer, but some people with prostate cancer live a long time. So Karen and I are figuring that out. And then, but the guy said, Karen has subsequently deemed this guy as said that this guy is Dr. Death. That's her
His
term for him.
nickname.
Because he's a nice guy, but he just accentuates the negative. And
And is he kind of blunt with it? Is he just
he was nice about it, but
yeah.
he said, yeah, there are these cells in your biopsy that are bad actors, and there are enough of them there that we are really concerned about that. And so they're called neuroendocrine cells, for what it's worth. And so I looked those up, and like the life expectancy if you had neuroendocrine cells as a major component of your biopsy was like, with no treatment, it was 2 months.
2 months?
2 months. And with treatment, it was like 9 months on
When was
average.
your diagnosis?
Now it was a year ago, June.
Wow.
So I'm
So
approaching a year and a half.
you're
out.
looking at this Google page or whatever, and in your
No,
head you're like,
I'm looking at the article,
or the
like
article.
like the best article I could find.
So in your head, are you almost doing them? You're like 9 months.
Well, I'm kind of thinking, yeah, and I kind of asked him about it, and he said, yeah, it's bad. We can treat you like normal prostate cancer, but these cells are probably going to take over, and that's probably what's gonna, they're probably going to do you in. Or I'm really worried about him. He would keep saying, I'm really worried about him. And so I'm trying to find out all I can about these cells, and it's uniformly bad.
there's not there's not a single article that's like these are good.
There's no good news. No good news. It's not super
Oh.
common, so there weren't that many articles, but the no good news. So the story of my disease so far has probably been in 3 phases. So the first phase was that one, which was doom and gloom. They didn't want me to walk because they were worried I was going to break my hip, because I had tumor all in that hip socket. So I couldn't walk. I had to go around in a wheelchair, or use a walker. I really I'd started some therapy, but we were just trying to figure out what to do. And I'm thinking, like, I got to get my affairs in order.
I mean, what I just can't think of anything outside of medical stuff that would just change your life like to that extent, that quick.
Fortunately, I was retired, so
Yeah.
if I hadn't been retired, it would have been an even bigger shock and change.
Yeah, but it's like you went from walking to now.
Well,
they don't want you
I
to
was
walk
walking, and then they didn't want me to walk. I was walking with pain.
Yeah.
And I was in pain, constantly in pain.
But then you're just reevaluating everything, I imagine.
Well, I'm kind of going,
Like-
well, I'm going to die, and I'm going to die pretty soon. So I better start writing letters to Karen and the kids to open when I'm gone, and figuring out, I
Give
better
me
make sure
chills.
our trust is in order and everything's good. And there were all these things that I'm sure your mom and dad would have, and that you and Aunt Kate will have, where that I was responsible in the marriage for doing. I paid most of the bills. I took care of taking the garbage cans out. Some of it mundane, some of it really important stuff. that Karen can easily do, but that was my division of labor. That was my responsibility in the division of labor. And so I started putting notes on the calendar for her, assuming I was going to be gone like in 6 months, saying, okay, on this date,
Here's what needs to be done.
you need to contact I did the taxes. You need to contact the tax attorney. He will tell you what you need to provide him so that he can do our taxes. It was a sort of
It
stuff.
just feels like so unimportant, but it is important for you to
I mean,
set
I
up.
was figuring I want to die right. I want to die so that my wife will know what she needs to do. Here's when you go out to the garage and turn the button so that the sprinklers go on. And oh, by the way, the first time they go on, usually over the course of the winter, something's gone wrong. So you need
Here's
to
who
look
you
at all the
call
sprinklers, and if you need to call somebody, here's who you call. That kind of stuff. So that was phase one. And that lasted a couple of months, I'd say. And meanwhile, I started on some therapy, and the therapy seemed to be working, sort of. And so then we kind of went into phase two, which was I was on the kind of the standard first line therapy for prostate cancer. And then
Is it pretty intensive?
no, the first line stuff is just a bunch of pills and an
Okay.
occasional shot.
Okay.
It does some. The therapy itself is not intense to get. The
But there's some
side
side
effects
effects.
that you have are pretty. They're not. They don't hurt, but uh, they're not great. Let me just put it that way.
You wouldn't recommend
I
if you don't have cancer
don't do it
taking
if
these
if you don't have
medications.
prostate cancer. Don't do it. And then the oncologist I was seeing, the one that Karen says is Dr. Death, recommended some chemo. So then I went through a course of
And
chemo.
that's really tough,
It
right?
was mine
Is that?
mine wasn't that bad.
Oh,
It
good.
was 3 months, and I lost my hair, and I had some diarrhea. I don't think I threw up at all. It was just kind of some of the time, some of the treatments, after some of the treatments, I didn't feel much of anything.
Mm.
I'd get tired, I guess.
But it is, well, you would know more than me, but my understanding is when they do chemo, they target spots, but they can't differentiate good
No,
and bad cells.
it's poisons.
So it's like
They're poisons.
we're just hoping to get a spot where there's more bad cells, but we're also know we're going to take some good cells out.
Right.
It's
Right.
a crazy
It's
concept.
poison. It's poison. It's poisons for cells. But the notion, the idea, as I understand it, is that the cancer cells grow faster than the regular cells. So they give when chemo is given, it's usually a medicine that is most effective when cells are dividing, and so it kills the more rapidly dividing cells more than it kills the regular cells. But it kills the regular cells too. Um, Diarrhea is super common because it kills the cells that line your gut are rapidly dividing cells too, so they take a hit.
Cancer is, it's just, I don't know if this word is right, but it just feels so unfair. Like it doesn't matter what you do, doesn't matter. I mean, I know it does to an extent, right? If you smoke cigarettes, it increases the chances, but you can do everything on paper right, and you can still get cancer. I mean, it's just, it doesn't discriminate. There's nothing, I mean, there's stuff you can do in general, I'm sure, to lower your chances, but at the end of the day, it can happen to a kid. It's just such an awful thing. And I know there's a wide range too, of course. But yeah, it's just, and we don't really
Philosophically,
know like that much about it, right?
but it's so there's a couple of terms that are used over broadly, probably. But cancer's an easy buzzword. But when you say cancer, it means a million different kinds of cancers. So there are cancers that are easily curable. There are cancers that people have that they never knew they had, and they die from something else. So
Oh,
prostate cancer
interesting.
is actually super common that way.
That people die with it.
Yeah,
With
like what I remember from med school, and I'm not,
yeah,
so it
yeah.
may not be true anymore, but if you die at 80 and they took your prostate out of you after you died and did looked at it carefully enough that there would be an 80% chance of finding some cancer cells
80%.
in there. Yeah, they're there, but they didn't do you
They
any
didn't.
harm.
Yeah.
They didn't kill you. You died of a heart attack,
Oh wow.
so they didn't do you any harm. So cancer's used over broadly, and then chemo is kind of used over
Mm.
broadly too. My chemo was one drug, and it for me it wasn't that bad. Um, chemo can also be three drugs,
Mm.
and they're all three are really horrible in terms of their side effects.
Yeah, it makes sense that
Um,
there's obviously I've never had cancer, been that close to someone with it. You'd probably be the closest, but it's that there's so many different types
mm-hmm,
and nuances to all of it. So that's
mm-hmm.
interesting to know. But is cancer on some level, regardless of the type, it's your cells like attacking your own cells, right? Or is
No,
that an
it's cells.
oversimplification?
No, not attacking, but it's cells that have. But normally cells divide because they have to. Some of them have to divide super fast, like the ones that line the gut, because they fall off all the time, and that's good. But cells divide all the time. It's just where you probably for a genetic reason, like a mutation has happened in a cell
Mm.
that it breaks the normal barriers that keep cells from just dividing and dividing and dividing and dividing. Normally, your cells divide, but they divide at a certain rate and then they stop. But cancer cells just
They just keep
they just
dividing.
keep they just keep growing, and they
Oh,
divide at a
interesting.
fast rate, which is why the poisons that is chemo, help.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense. I've never.
And then your own immune system. Um, this probably happens all the time. It's probably happening in you right now. That the occasional cell has got a weird mutation, and it might be, breaking away, but your immune system takes care of
Mm.
all those little outbursts until they miss one, um,
Wow.
and then it goes crazy.
So we're in stage two. You're doing
Oh, so
chemo.
I'm doing that. I get chemo, lose my hair. I'm done with chemo. Hair comes back, and then it became apparent that because of PSAs, that's prostate specific antigen. It's a blood test that people get, both, well, mostly to monitor
Mm-hmm.
prostate cancer, and in my case, to monitor prostate cancer. But my PSA was starting to rise, which is a bad sign.
Mm.
And so the conclusion from now my new oncologist was um, that we probably needed to do something different. And so the options there are a number of options for new things to do, but one of them which is super novel was this immunotherapy option where these special molecules are created that have I was explaining to you last night that they have a thing on one end of them that latches on to
Mm-hmm.
prostate cells, and on the other end it latches on to white blood cells and turns them on so that they get activated, and then those white blood cells, the idea is they just work in that one area. They're right next to the prostate cells, so they start to kill those prostate cells because that's one of the things that white blood cells do.
It's such a crazy like talking about it like this, but it's just super small cells in your body, like
Yeah,
like it's latching on. I'm picturing an illustration in my head.
yeah. It's. I can show you one later. It's a trip. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a trip that they have come up with these, and they've tried them in a bunch of different cancers other than prostate, and they've had some pretty good results. So um, that's I agreed to do that trial. There were only so far about 100 people in the world who have gotten this particular drug.
What made you? I know you said there was options as far as more experimental. routes you could go. What made you pick this one over the others?
Um, that's a good question. The others were um, definitely, staving off the inevitable. And I wasn't sure exactly how long they would stave things
Mm,
off, but there were two other treatments that I could have done in, one after the other. And I don't know how much, but the first oncologist I had, the guy who was so pessimistic, said, well, one of them might get you a year and then the other one might get you 6 months. So,
doctor death.
I was kind of back to, okay, I could do those, but there's not that much.
Yeah, are the trade-offs even?
Is it going to really help that much? And then this other thing was brand new at the time. Maybe 50 people in the world had gotten it. They didn't really know how helpful it was, kind of promising, but there weren't enough people so far to really know for sure if it was going to make things better. But the theory was good, and in the other
Well, and you,
cancers,
of course, have the medical background for you looking at this stuff. Like you know what you're evaluating.
well, I'm kind of looking at it going, why not?
Yeah,
I can always do the other ones later,
yeah, yeah.
the other things later, and this was potentially, if not potentially hitting a home run, maybe at least getting a double, or if we were really lucky, a triple out of it. And so, and I also did some reading about the drug. There's very little that I could find to read about it. Did some reading about the drug um, and its side effects, and the side effects didn't look that bad. Side effects looked like, especially after
I'm sure your definition of not that bad for side effects is much different than mine at this
maybe,
point.
yeah, maybe, maybe. Um, it looked like they had things go wrong, but nobody got really sick. And when things went wrong, it wasn't that bad. And even if they did go wrong after about 4 to 6 weeks of treatment,
Subsided.
things kind of went away. So I figured, well, this will be a walk in the park. I'll just get my infusions. It hasn't turned out that way for me. It's been much, much harder than that. Much harder than chemo. Much, much harder.
Oh wow, in terms of side effects.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like no comparison. Um,
Oh,
I
it's almost worse that the expectation was that it wouldn't be. Right?
yeah.
At
No,
least you could have prepared
I
a bit more
go
mentally.
the first three infusions, first two for sure, and in my case ended up being three. The first three, it required that they be in the hospital because there was this chance of a really, really profound reaction
Mm.
where it was like it was like you were septic almost because the immune system got so revved up.
And it's enough of a chance that they're making you stay in the
Yeah, they
hospital. So
made me stay in the hospital. And it's a good thing they did because I got really, really sick
oh,
and ended up in the ICU. Like that kind of had to rush me to the ICU. So
so you not
it,
only did you get more side effects than you thought you would, you got some of the absolute
it was
worst.
bad. I mean, it was a bad reaction.
Oh,
And I mean, it was scary for me, kind of, although pretty early on in the course of that evening, I kind of just went, I was out of it. And it was very scary for Karen, who was staying overnight with me. So I did that one. And then a week later, I needed to have another infusion. So I did that one, got really sick for that one. Third time, they did it in the hospital, even though they don't usually do that because I'd gotten so sick. And I got really sick with that one.
oh no,
And then the
no.
fourth one I did at home, and I've been doing them at home now, and they're every 2 weeks now.
Has it got better? For
I kinda, yeah, kinda. There are some things that have happened that happened and then went away. I have had really bad hives. Some of all the skin on my feet peeled off. Um,
oh
And then
wow.
some things that have been annoying and remain annoying is that I've lost a lot of my sense of taste, and I have a dry mouth all the time. And when I drink water, it tastes a little bit metallic,
Oh, that's that's it
which
sucks.
I'm starting to get used to. My hearing is, I just took a hearing test this morning, and it's at about 65%.
How many side effects are there?
There were a list when I looked before I started this study. The list had about 30 things on it. And I've had every single one of those. As it turns out, I've had every single one of those and a couple of other ones that they hadn't described yet.
So there was a list of 30 that they said these are potential side effects.
Uh huh.
You've had every single one plus additional side effects that no one else documented has had
Yeah.
until now.
Some of them are
Oh,
your albumin will drop. That's a blood
do
test.
you know the other people who are doing those
No.
treatments? Okay,
I was the first one at UC Davis.
gotcha. I'd be curious what
Um,
their experience is like.
I'm curious too, and I'm going to ask next time. There are two other people now at UC Davis following behind
Okay.
me, and I want to ask, well, what happened with what's happening with them. So really, really bad side effects, really, really hard. For the first 4 weeks, it was every week, and now it's switched to every 2 weeks. And then this big moment arrives where you get all these imaging tests to see if things are better.
It's the moment of truth. Like, is
Yeah,
this
and I had already decided if things were the same or worse, I wasn't going to keep doing it was just too much, too much. I'd
yeah.
go back to the other stuff, and I'd die in a year and a half. If it was, and I was probably even going to do that. I would have had a long argument with Karen, but I was probably even going to do that if it just looked a little bit better. But in my case, at least it looked a lot better.
That's
Some of the
oh, that's
some of the
amazing.
lesions were gone, and some of them were barely there. And so I have another one of those coming up in about 2 weeks. Another one of those weeks where I get a bunch of
Part of
imaging.
you's like, oh, I wish it wasn't. I was ready to get off of
Yeah,
this.
I sure was. But now it's kind of looking more like we might be able to hit a double or a triple.
That's amazing.
Um,
That's
these infusions do, in theory, go on indefinitely, like for the rest of my life, which is
it's another crazy thought.
it's a hassle just logistically and temporally because you I have an infusion and I'm always sick for at least a day, like too sick to
Like you
travel
can't
or
plan
do anything.
anything.
No, I would never
Yeah.
plan anything the day after. Um, and then if we give me like 2-3 days to get better, and we go somewhere, then we can only go long enough to.
Be back for the
Well, I got
next.
to be back for the next one. So, and they're only 2 weeks apart, so it gives
Mm.
us probably 10 days max. Yeah.
Well, it is awesome though that you're doing this, and it may be very helpful for people in similar situations in the future, and that you're doing this, more, I guess, experimental, if that's the word.
Yeah, Karen doesn't like it, but I describe what's called a phase 1 clinical trial, and it means
It's in its
usually that.
infancy.
Go ahead.
It's in its infancy. Is that what that means?
It usually means that they've done enough basic science and animal work research
They've done just enough to say we can try this on
enough to
humans.
say that we tried on humans, but that's right. It's just barely enough because they basically say it's what we need to figure out what the right dose is. We need to figure out what the right schedule is. We need to find out what the side effects are going to be in people. So it's also called a first in humans trial, and I mean it works for what I've got because like I think they enroll people who are kind of like me, where you don't really know if you don't have good options otherwise, like long term options. So you sort of say, well, everybody's sort of thinking I'm going to do this study because I want to hit a home run. It's going to cure my cancer. And even if it doesn't, it might work better than the other stuff. So there's a whole bunch of people like me
Yeah, I
who,
mean, it's an impossible decision, right? You're just trying to make the best you can with information you have in it.
well, I actually thought it was pretty easy for me
Oh,
because, I mean, what else am I going to do? I could do the other
nothing.
stuff,
Yeah.
but this was a chance to maybe live a lot longer by a lot longer, maybe a couple extra years at least,
But how valuable is that?
beyond what I would live
How
if
much
I
would
did
you
the other stuff.
pay, financially for 2 extra years of,
Yeah, no,
I mean, it's
that's golden, man. That's priceless. So
time is the
it may not work out that way, but that's what you're thinking going in. It's why with studies like these, it's easy to get people to sign up who are whose options are really limited. It's hard to get people to sign up for a study like this one if they have really good alternative
mhm.
existing options, and
Because why
then
would you
yeah,
subject
am I
yourself
really
to?
gonna? Why? I don't know what this. I don't know if this drug is going to help
Yeah,
me, and I know these others will. So why would I do that?
yeah. Oh wow, wow. Well, that's awesome that the results were
So, yeah, so
significantly better.
far we'll see in a couple weeks if
I
the new
guess
ones
we,
are.
I guess we will.
Yeah.
Well, how do you think your perspective has changed since you've been diagnosed?
Um. You know, about medicine, not really very much. Um, but I think I do have a better appreciation of the fact that two different doctors can look at the same thing in two really, really different ways. I think I knew that, but it's given me a personal appreciation for that. Um, on a personal side, I mean, it's it's hard to not fall into cliches, but it just means everything is a little bit more precious, and you kind of realize what you have that is really precious. And fortunately for me, I'm old enough and I'm retired, and I don't have a ton of. It's not like I'm looking back on my life and I have a ton of regrets, which is good. Um, but uh, it's a different. Um, I'll tell you, but other than the kind of sentimental stuff that is probably pretty obvious to most people, like if you because they're thinking, well, what if I was told that I had terminal cancer? What would I how would I deal with that? What would I think? I do cancer updates for people. I do a thing that we send out by text to text strings, and I finish them all with "Count Your Blessings," because I that maybe sums up the sentimental way I feel about it. I would say that kind of it's part sentimental, part kind of just an interesting observation is that um, I I am thinking about things in the future in a really different way.
Mm.
So I'll give you an example. So we watched because your parents are such diehard Florida State fans. We watched Florida State play Virginia the other night, and I'm thinking, okay, Florida State looked like they might be good this year. Now we're not so sure. They got to play Miami next week. Maybe they'll be really good. But I'm thinking about Florida State football. It's not something that I think about very often. But I'm thinking, okay, well, I wonder if Florida State's going to be good next year. And I'm probably at this point, I'm not pausing when I think about that. But I'm thinking, well, what if they fire the coach and then they have to start over? I wonder if the new coach is going to be rebuilt to
Mm.
be able to rebuild them in this new environment so that 3 years from now they'll be really good. And I'm thinking that does give me pause because I'm thinking, well, 3 years. Uh, maybe that's a moot question for me.
Yeah.
I may not be here in 3 years. Um, uh, for now it's going to get sentimental. But I've got kids who are 23 and 21, and what am I going to be around for them? Fortunately, I wasn't sure I was going to be around for Pete's graduation from UCLA, but was fine. Um, I'll be around for Ava's graduation from Cal Poly. But, beyond that, uh, Pete is probably going to go to medical school. And if he gets into medical school, am I going to be around for his med school graduation? Well, that's 4 years. And before all this happened, I still like it would have been I'll be 75 when that happens, but if I'm around, and I probably would have paused and thought, well, gosh, I'd be a really old dad at the med school graduation ceremony, but I wouldn't really have thought much about not being there.
Yeah, it's a
And
completely
now it's different time frames.
well, it's everyone knows that they're gonna die,
Mm-hmm.
but very few people know that they're gonna die and have this like the way you're thinking about time is
Mm-hmm.
it's that is really really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You're thinking almost in events like will I where as for me I'm like
Right.
I got 40 more years of working like it's nothing like I have
Right.
all this time and
Right.
it's a way different perspective. Oh, you
That was it. Back in the right after I was diagnosed, when I thought I was going to die in 5 months. Um, that then the time frame was really tight, and
I
there
mean,
was
how do you even process that in 5 months?
well, you just kind of go, just sort of say, well, I'm not gonna be there for my son's graduation. I better start talking to him about how proud I am of him, and yeah, that was hard. And now it's kind of a weird. Is it going to be 3 years? Is this drug going to work great? Am I going to be an anomaly? Is it going to be 10 years? I don't think much past 10. Like, for me to be around when Pete finishes a residency, I don't like. I'm not thinking that's likely. Um, or grandkids. Who knows what the kids are going to do, but I'm not counting on that. So that's that changes your perspective. That changes your perspective for sure.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I don't, I don't
Mm-hmm.
even, what I do love that I saw on display last night is that you have a sense of humor and you don't seem at all cynical or, feel bad for me or you guys came to Nashville to come see your friends. That's amazing. And even at
Mm-hmm.
dinner last night, my dad handed his credit card. You go, no, 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 take mine. I have cancer. Like it's the way, and this may just be you coping with all of it, but it's really amazing to see how you've handled this and something that I mean, someone like me, I can't even fully grasp how you feel and it's still just it's so moving and powerful to me to hear you talk about these
You
things.
know, that's that's nice of you to say, Joe. But um, I I told you that the first phase was kind of a doctor death phase, and I actually think in retrospect, I mean, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but in retrospect, that was really good. For me, it was really good because, I really did have to confront the fact that, I might be dead in a few months. And
Worst case scenario, it immediately was front and center for you.
right. So then I got to do all this reevaluation and then it turns out I'm not dead in 3 or 4 months. And I've got maybe some new opportunities, and maybe this drug is going to help. But I kind of just there were a lot of things I just was able to let go. If that may sound weird, but because it was so awful, and because there was no getting away from it. I had to confront it.
I mean, it's your whole life.
Well,
That's
and
like
death, right?
and death.
And
Yeah.
and death. So you're kind of saying, yeah, I am literally counting the days, and
Like you're waking up and you're like, I don't know how many more times I'm gonna wake up.
right,
It's just
right.
it feels so far removed from me, and it's just wow.
Well, it made me, at least, it made me really just kind of, I had to figure out a way to come to be at peace with it. And so that's carried over. I'm kind of, I really truly am kind of at peace about it. Um, the hardest thing for me, honestly, is to leave Karen behind, and because she's significantly younger than I am. So, she's 50, what is she, 57 or 58? 58. So she'll be, if I die in 3 years, she'll be 61. And she is the gas pedal in our relationship. So she likes to go do stuff. And in a way, maybe it'll be liberating for her, for me to die, in that practical way, that she can go do stuff. But I do feel sad about that. But even that doesn't take away. I kind of have a inner peace about it because it was just so awful. I think if it hadn't been so awful at the beginning, I would still be kind of going, okay, what new treatment can we find?
Yeah.
What can we do? I've already decided.
Dr. Death put things into perspective
Dr.
real
Death
quick.
Actually, he helped me in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, well, I guess I'm curious, and this may be a long answer. Take it whatever route you want to go. But what would you tell? I don't know if advice is the right word, but just perspective or advice on life would you give to someone like me or Pete or Ava or Jackson or Kenna? People in their 20s and their teens.
I would say be kind. And that's true in a lot of different ways. We've talked about a number of contexts where that's true. Be kind. Listen more than you talk. I've had to learn that. Still, I'm learning that. Do something for work that you like. And if you don't like it and can't, for practical reasons, get out of it completely, see if you can change it some to make it more interesting. Because I think it's a little flip to say, well, do what you like, and if you don't like what you're doing anymore, then make a change and do something different. Because if you got a mortgage payment, and you got a couple of kids that you're responsible for, there's maybe a retirement plan. You can't necessarily just do that. So sometimes you have to make do, because the other side of it is more important.
Yeah.
What else? I think those are probably as important as those are. It's probably better when those things are simple.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So for you, I guess along these lines, what do you really value and or prioritize right now at this stage in your life?
I like time with my kids and with my wife. That's probably the most important thing. I do like travel. Karen really wants to travel. She wants to take me to places.
Gas pedal.
Gas pedal for sure. She's actually she and your mom made a bucket list. Did they tell you that?
No, they
no.
didn't.
They made a bucket list.
They got a bunch of
hanging
bright
up
new ideas.
hanging up in my office.
Oh, really?
No, it's got. They did it on poster board, and they asked me things that I would like to do before I die, and so there's these two poster boards in the office, and they'll say Portugal, and with a little picture, because they're both artistic, and a checkbox next to it. And so we're checking off boxes. It's a little hard for me to do because of the infusions and the side effects, but I'm game.
Yeah,
and, it'd be fun to see Portugal before I die, and this is probably my only chance. So I'm liking that. And I'd say that, the included in the travel is friends. And
it's amazing the relationships that you and Karen and your family have. I mean, across the country.
We do. We have we know a lot of people. I have a gas pedal for a wife, and that helps.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's awesome, and I know how much my family cares about you guys
Mm-hmm.
and the community you built in Sacramento. And I mean, how many friends do you have in Tennessee? There's at least
We
five
have a lot
families
now.
more.
Yeah, we have a lot. Yeah.
It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, we have a lot.
I mean, you have to split time between houses when you guys come visit here because people people need your company.
Shared custody.
Shared
Yeah.
custody. So, anything else on values, prioritize?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't
I
think
like
so.
the simple.
Yeah, simple is good because then you can remember it.
Yep. Well, I think practically we do have to get ready for Kenna's band show.
Oh, we do. That's right.
But is there
Okay.
anything else we
No. Although I do think every nice thing your dad said about you last night is true. Yeah.
likewise with
Yeah.
what you said about Pete and Ava?
Yeah.
And no, that was very very
That
kind.
was fun.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I love conversations in the bourbon room.
There's nothing better.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, thank you
Right.
so much for agreeing
Thanks,
to do this.
Joe.
Yeah. Have you ever been on a podcast?
I have not.
Check this off the.
Yeah.
I mean, this will be an add-on to the bucket list.
That's
but
right. This is a bucket list thing. Yeah, Karen will enjoy that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All
Well,
right.
I'm gonna turn it off.
Thanks, Joe.